Grog.
Hey guys, it's episode 12 of The Cider Shed with me, Peter Fickling, joined as always by Keri Warbis and Matthew Weir. And this week we have our first and very special guest, Susie Riddell.
Hello.
Hooray!
Susie, you're very welcome.
Thank you. I didn't know it was the first.
Yes.
What an honour.
And also, I think I can speak on behalf of Keri and Matthew, very much sort of top of the list of people we would want on.
Yes, definitely.
Oh, thank you very much. You might not think that by the end of the interview.
Well, we'll give you that feedback off mic.
Okay, thanks very much. Yeah.
So, Susie, you listened to the week's episodes of The Archers.
I did.
Yes.
You asked me to, and I did my homework.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't have if we hadn't have asked you then.
Well, I probably wouldn't have kind of listened to it while watching my daughter's swimming lesson earlier. And, yes, I had to fit it in. But I normally listen to the omnibus. Yeah, but no, it wasn't a chore. It wasn't a terrible homework. It was a delight, as always.
Are you able to maintain an enjoyable remove from the show, like for the plot lines that don't involve Tracy?
I can actually. I can listen to it and enjoy it. And yeah, I was thinking. As I was listening, not watching. Although you watch it in your head, don't you, as you're listening? But as I was listening earlier, with it plugged into my ears, watching my daughter's swimming lesson, I was hoping she wasn't going to look up and see me kind of shaking my head grimly while I listened to Brian and Adam sort of being friends and then falling out and being friends and falling out. I thought she might think I was shaking my head at her terrible backstroke. But no, it was the Archers. And I was also laughing quite a lot. I just probably looked a bit mad to the other parents. But hey, what's new? So that's fine.
How long is it since you came back in to the show?
This is my 10th year as Tracy.
Yeah.
So it was 2011.
Right, okay.
October the 3rd, to be exact.
So do you think, because we've been talking quite a lot recently about how the sort of editorial tone has changed recently, do you feel like there is more sort of an effort to sort of lean into the comedy, lean into the drama, but sort of keep those things distinct and do them well?
I think the comedy it seems to me to be stronger, and throughout as well. I think there's the comedy runs through the stories more than it used to. I think that it's allowed to be there. I suppose what you've just said is that it's comedy and then it's drama separate. But I actually feel that, although that is true to a certain extent, I feel that the comedy does run through. Probably not in the Alice storyline. I mean,
No.
I haven't really laughed very much during that, but in other areas, I think it's allowed to flourish, which I think it does in real life. Really, you laugh about stuff and things are silly, and it's nice to have that kind of lighter element. And also in an episode, I suppose there is sometimes the quite serious story going on, and then and also the comic story. And I suppose for my part, that's probably where I'm sitting more at the moment. Who knows? There might be a big dramatic storyline.
Well, I was going to say one thing that's quite promising for you is the way that they kind of rehabilitate characters. So kind of Jim and Linda have both been allowed to come back to being kind of lighter, funner characters after their very heavy plots.
Yes, that's true. And that's nice, isn't it? That gives everybody hope in real life, I suppose, that can happen.
Speaking of the lighter touch and the comedic element, for you and Jazza, Tracy and Jazza, as characters, tend towards the jocular. But I've got this slight problem with you two, because you have many aggy moments, don't you? You're like, there's a lot of bickering between you, and I worry about this.
Do you worry that it's not going to last?
Well, yes, I do.
I don't know. You should hear me and my husband.
Oh, right, okay.
I think you argue more with the people you're closest to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't argue with anyone in real life, other than people through the glass of my car, and they can't hear me. But I think that they've got that understanding of each other that means they can be really cross with each other, but then it'll be okay the next morning, or in 15 minutes, however long it takes.
I hope so.
But I actually had that thought earlier while I was listening to Brian and Adam. Although they don't, I don't know if there's any love lost there, but I did think, God, you can tell they're family.
I mean, if you said you were shaking your head listening to that, whose side do you come down on in Adam
I
and
don't think
Brian?
I was on either side.
No?
I was I was really cross with them both. I just thought, oh, stop it. I felt they were being quite childish. But what I loved was that kind of, you know, I'm blaming you for this, I'm blaming you for that. It's your fault, and then it would be, oh no, come on, we should sort this out. And then, oh, okay. Oh no, it's your fault, your fault. It's that kind of that wave of argument that you get with a family member, and then it's fine, and then. But you go when you're, oh, God, bloody hell, that's so annoying.
Yeah, it was like a trade-off of everything each of them had done wrong, like poisoning rivers and crashing a tractor and then
having an affair. Yes, running, almost having your leg amputated. I mean, it was everything, wasn't it? It was their entire history. But that's what happens, I suppose, and you dredge up the most awful things. But it's whether it's salvageable, I suppose, in the end. Because they don't have the bedroom to retire to. Well, let's hope not. God, that would be an interesting story.
Brian took Adam really literally, didn't he? Because Brian actually had to come back and say, I didn't blame you for COVID.
Yes. That made me laugh. That did make me laugh in the swimming pool.
Yeah. But the last one in the list, that one, and you even ran over your own foot.
That was brutal.
Yeah, it was.
Brutal.
That was his ace card, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
But he came off the back of that COVID thing. I didn't blame you for COVID, but the aquaponics, by the way. And then came back.
Yeah, you should have foreseen the pandemic.
Yeah, when he had to say the line that included contagious ovine digital dermatitis.
Oh, yeah.
I was like,
as an insult.
Yes.
That is Charles Collingwood at his finest.
But you did quite well out of that, Susie. You don't have to deal with too many of the... I mean, except for sort of current cricketing techniques, you don't have to deal with much of the educational side of the show, do you?
No, not really. Yeah, I mean, and I'm sort of more of a life coach, really. Doesn't need to be any difficult jargon there. It's more kind of, come on, let's have a drink and go and hit some balls.
You did have to have that romantic conversation with Jazza over the hydroponics at one point.
I did enjoy that. Aquaponics pour om. Yes. Well, I enjoyed it mostly because I had no idea what aquaponics was until that point. So it was like, thank goodness. Because I've been hearing about this for years. In fact, I quite like some more scenes with different members of the farming communities in Ambridge, just so that he can explain stuff that I don't understand.
When obviously when we knew you were coming on, I had a bit of a think about a bit more of a think about Tracy. And one of the things was this, by the way, compliment incoming. One of the things I was thinking was certain characters like Linda, Tracy. Maybe who else would be a good example? Jim, actually. Just so you know, don't criticize Brian, don't criticize Jim, because Matthew and Keri will come for you.
No, I wouldn't. I love them.
But all of those characters, I feel like they're so well rounded that they're, a lot of that's down to the acting. That the obviously the writers, I almost feel like it must just flow onto the page because the characters are so sort of solid and sort of real. I
mean, I certainly know Keri likes writing for Tracy.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think those characters, I don't know. I mean, Tracy has had a little bit of heartache so far. I mean, the Roman story, but she's quite good at hiding, keeping things under wraps, I suppose. But the other characters certainly have had real kind of depths of despair and trauma. And I think that is wonderful to be able to have a character who can go to the heights of comedy and can go to those depths of despair and be believable. I don't think Tracy's had to face that yet.
And hugely well loved. Really, I mean, Tracy is so well loved. I don't think I've seen any tweets or anything from people who are not in agreement with that.
Oh. Well, it's just really nice to, I don't know what to say about it really, because it is so wonderful to kind of have that. But I've met people in, I did a show for it was for young kids, and I was playing a fairy and with a string quartet, and it was great. And at the end, and obviously on the flyer it said Susie Riddell, who plays Tracy Horban in The Archers. And this woman came up and said, Are you Tracy in The Archers? And I said, yeah. And she went, oh, you're horrible.
Really?
Oh, Thank you for that. Thanks for that critique. I was like, do you actually listen to the Archers? I never get, because some people do think she's a horror, and I don't understand that, because I'm incredibly fond of her and think she's wonderful.
I
don't think
can't
she's awful at
comprehend
all.
that. What
Yeah.
I'm trying to imagine what she's done that's horrible, or
I
how
think
she's
it's a
behaved.
class. I think it's a class thing.
Exactly.
I think it's only very posh people who think that about Tracy. She's dreadful.
I lived in America for half a decade, and one of the things I loved the most about it was how, for better or worse, upfront and to the point people are. And Keri's very like that as well. That's, I think, why Keri, Matthew, and I get on quite well, is because everything's out in the open.
Yeah.
And I think Trace, that's maybe Trace's finest quality, is there's zero bullshit. There's absolutely no opportunity for disingenuity.
Yes, yeah, I think so. You can't. People can't go away and go, "Ooh, what a two-faced cow."
Yeah.
Because she's just at times a one-faced cow, which is much better. There's no confusion. I mean, I think the only time she's two-faced is when she says she's fine, but actually she's not. But I think the only person that hurts is herself.
I'm reminded of when Parkinson asked Paul Merton of Angus Deaton, do you feel you stabbed him in the back? And he said, well, we stabbed him in the front, to be honest. Because, just to be that honest and brutal to people.
I don't think she's that bad, though.
No. I think it comes from a place of love often, her directness. It doesn't it? It's more efficient, just get things sorted.
Yeah, she wants to help. She wants everything to be okay. And she has a no-nonsense approach to that.
When they were moving Tracy from being kind of Susan's comedy sister to a sort of proper, full, middle-of-the-village character, I think that part of the one of the most effective bits of that was when she was kind of like battling with Linda for kind of primacy at the front desk.
Oh, gosh, I loved that.
Yes.
Yeah, it was great.
I mean, if Grey Gables goes under and if Linda never goes, I get whenever I listen, I'm like, no, I mean, please, Grey Gables, because Ian talking about Grey Gables not doing very well. I was like, no, I need to be back on the front desk with Linda and Oliver and Freddie.
Yeah, that must be peculiar for you to listen like that and sort of go, no, that can't happen.
Oh, it's weird.
It will affect
it's
me.
Weird. Yeah, well, yeah, you do think that a bit, but it's also because that I absolutely. I mean, I know it's fictional. I mean, I don't know if everyone listening thinks it's fictional, but
what?
For me, no, sorry to burst the bubble, but for me, that's the best job I've ever had. Grey Gables, as real as Susie.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, working on reception at Grey Gables, best job I've ever had.
Explosion included.
Oh my god, that was so exciting! It's like being in a Hollywood film. I mean, that was career defining, absolute joy. It was so good, and it was only a few weeks before lockdown we recorded that.
Was that a Friday episode that happened?
Was it a Sunday?
I don't know.
No, it was a Sunday and then the Monday, because it all ran on, didn't it?
Yes,
it was kind of two episodes in one.
Yeah,
I think it was a Sunday Monday. And of course, because it was before lockdown, we had hundreds of people in the studio. It was so exciting because we had the entire production team helping with sound effects, with the voices and of the hotel guests and staff. So everybody was in there, and it was great. It was an absolute thrill.
Blake frying his sausages in the corner.
Yeah.
Chucking a bit of petrol on the floor.
That was it.
Yeah.
I mean, if the timing had been out, that would have been a really tricky thing to have taken away from the scripting, wouldn't it?
God. What do you mean if it had been?
Yeah, if that had fallen as a script.
Mid-COVID.
Yeah,
because it was, when did it I know when it went out, it was March the 8th, I think, 8th and 9th, and we recorded it in February. Yes, it was just before.
Yeah.
I think it was a shame in a way that if it wasn't a bit earlier, because it kind of, but although it was a great kind of, to end the sort of normality of the world with such an exciting dramatic storyline was pretty great. But it was kind of overshadowed by all of the other stuff, that stuff.
I loved the monologues. I'm pretty much. I mean, I don't think it's controversial to say that they went to everyone's taste, but I really enjoyed them.
No, good. I actually listened to. Funnily enough, I listened to the Archers. Oh, what's it called? Ambridge Academic Archers.
Yes.
And they have the conference.
Right. Yeah.
And there was a paper about the monologues and the audience response. And a lady, well, I presume she was a doctor actually. It was extremely in-depth research into the audience response, and it was really interesting because it wasn't anywhere near as kind of blanket. People don't like it as we've been led to believe. It was interesting, and I have spoken to other people who really like them as well, which and I don't speak to lots of people about the Archers, so
you don't go down the supermarket with a kind of loudhailer and a Tracy Horrobin t-shirt on.
Well, Tracy's loud. I got a loudhailer before lockdown as well. Actually, that was literally the week it was all going bing bong.
Was that to use at the cricket?
Yes, and it was to use to. It was a training session with Lee.
Well, that's when he went completely Full Metal Jacket and went crazy,
it was
didn't
absolutely great.
I'm loving the fact you're sharing pronouns with Tracy. You don't even bother to try and differentiate. It's your loudhailer. It's
well, it was mine, but I got to hold. I had to sterilize it myself. Yeah, no one could touch it but me. I hope I get that loudhailer back.
I thought you were going to say you were coordinating people after the explosion with the loudhailer, and not doing the cricket training.
Oh no! Yes, I don't. Yes, and it would have been a few. Oh, I'm very confused about timelines now, but yes, it was a few weeks later. She was back on it. I want to do some cricket. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Keri said in relation to like the script and stuff that things had to be axed and things that even I think things were even recorded, right, that got binned. Is any of that? I mean, I remember people saying that during like the first lockdown. Has any of that come back?
I think I don't know. I'm not privy to all that, but I think probably elements of stories have come back. But I've got 3 or 4 scripts, possibly 5, that never got recorded. And some of the stuff was absolutely lovely. For me, there was a particular episode with me and Linda that was going to be just great. And it never. And I'm very sad about that.
I'm sad now.
But yes, we recorded scenes. There was one in the cricket pavilion actually, with a new kit that Tracy had got, which I think that story did get used, but you didn't.
The cricket kit got used by Roman and Jazza.
Yes, but I don't think you saw Tracy. You didn't hear Tracy flinging the kit at people.
Oh right, okay.
It's got Vince. It's bright. What? They're bright red. Well, maybe they'll be priceless one day, these scripts, but I've kept them.
Was this with Vince getting the sponsorship?
Yes, when Tracy got the sponsors. I think it was ended up being used in the monologues. Actually, I think but I think I spoke about it in the monologues. So you didn't. That we did record a scene with Tracy handing out the kit in the cricket pavilion. It was very funny actually. It's sad things like that when I was like, oh, that's such a funny scene. Tracy in the men's changing room, and everyone's like, what are you doing in here? And she's flinging the kit. Put this on.
It was in the monologues where Harrison lost his captaincy, wasn't it?
Yes, I think it was all that stuff. And
that's
how she won. She got a few votes, didn't she? She got the new kit.
Actually, Harrison and Tracy both kind of came to the fore from being sort of not peripheral characters, but if you've got the kind of the hierarchy of kind of like characters in the village, I'd say Tracy's very much a top tier character now, but maybe her and Harrison as well. But her and Harrison are both come to the fore through the monologues through the lockdown.
Yeah, I have to say that was quite it was quite a responsibility to be in the first week monologues. Yeah. I was very nervous about it because it's entirely different, way of performing, and to play a character where you're always with other people, and then suddenly to have to do monologues was quite daunting, but really enjoyable, really, a lovely challenge to have.
Yeah.
but yes, it felt quite. I was like, oh well, it's David and David and Josh, and then it's me and Harrison. Great.
I think part of that was food groups. I do have a tendency, Susie, to get a little bit geeky about the script writing process, so I apologise. But I felt like when they were doing the monologues, when Tracy came in, it was like, okay, we do need a bit of fun. We do need some a change of pace after a week of hearing David stomp around the farm.
Well, it was Dave. It was the same week, I think, because it was David and Josh on the Monday, and then it was Tracy and Harrison on the Tuesday, and then it was Dave, and then some. Yeah, I think I was sort of set in. It was about 4 or 5 characters a week, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and they switched them up. But yes, I think there is always that kind of. There are characters who are better suited to the comic.
I wonder percentage-wise how much of the cast they actually got through in the monologues, because not everyone.
I don't think it was much. I don't think it would have been a high percentage.
Well, Toby's been AWOL for a while. I've been missing Toby. I was having to think about him today because obviously Rex has been at the front of things.
He was in it. Yeah, well, yeah, because it's funny, isn't it? Because I think, oh, he was in it the other week, and it was probably about 5 months ago, wasn't it? It's that time just. And I think, oh, I just haven't heard so and so for a while. It's been 3 years, that kind of thing.
I think they should go check on Hannah. She went into the pigsty about 18 months ago, and I haven't heard from her since.
Yeah, I'd love to hear Hannah again.
And Natasha as well. I mean, there's a few, isn't there, who you think, oh yeah. them.
Yeah.
What are they doing?
Natasha was given a proper run in the monologues, though, wasn't she? I mean, one thing I was thinking about was obviously, Susie, like, you must have developed some skills to be sort of doing the monologues, but also the show itself has kind of become so much tighter because of the 4 episodes a week. So as an audience and as an actor, there's going to be a kind of a real transition to get back.
I think so. Because even just the sort of listening, to listen to 4 episodes, which is under an hour, isn't it? It's kind of a different proposition. And I think, stories have to be much more streamlined, I suppose, because there aren't as many words to get the story out in.
It feels like they're condensed more, which can really work, I think. With the Adam current storyline, for example,
that kind of hit it's all there in a week, isn't it? All 4 episodes.
Yeah.
But then you've still got the fantastic overarching storylines that can still happen over months and months.
Yeah, people are finding Alice as a storyline really hard going, aren't they? But that does run through everything a little bit, doesn't it? It affects Brian, it affects Adam.
Yeah.
The Neil Shula affairs because of that.
Yes, that's yes, because if you sort of wrote Alice and put it in the middle of a circle and then kind of put everyone around who it's affecting, it's pretty much the whole village, isn't it?
Well, we were saying last week that her whole decision, wasn't it, not to go to dinner, that was like a chain effect of everything that happened in the village. That they didn't need the babysitter, and then the toys came out the box, and then Brian found the accounting mishap. That was all because they didn't go to dinner at Pat and Tony's.
Yes. Yeah, so that's and I suppose that's what happens, I suppose, and the emotions, those emotions that are running so high because of that, and it's going to impact everything else. Because I'm like, well, she's Tracy's niece-in-law. No, niece. Yes, niece-in-law. Is that a thing?
I don't know if it is, Susie, to be honest.
It is now. Yeah.
Because Christopher is her nephew, so Alice is her niece-in-law. And of course, and Martha's her great niece. So at some point, Tracy's going to get really, stressed out about it. Just don't know when.
Yeah, it hasn't really come into her orbit, has it, really, yet, the whole Alice thing? I know it's been mentioned in passing.
No, I think there's been a few mentions, but no. I expect it'll happen at some point. I don't know.
Susie,
yes,
as a professional actor, how much time do you spend in the Maldives doing kind of sort of holiday camp shows like Roman
Not
did?
enough.
Not enough?
Yeah, I was wondering that. Like, do you get a call? I mean, how many people do you know in the industry get a call to go do King Lear in the Maldives for 6 months?
Well, do you know, it must happen though. It must exist. I'm always jealous of. I've got friends who've been out to America, and done a tour. Quite often they do they do plays, and then they have to do workshops with university students and things, and high school students to pay their way. But and people who tour Italy and all that stuff. And I always think, oh, that'd be lovely. I can't do it. I've got 2 small children.
So did you do all of the gigs, like standing outside the London Dungeon to keep your equity card up to date and stuff?
No, I was a tour guide, but I was a tour guide for the BBC. I just keep it in the family.
Oh.
Everything I've done, I've been BBC branded through. Yes, I was a tour guide at Television Centre for 3 years, and then at Broadcasting House as well.
Oh,
for another year after that. So,
so like Kenneth out of 30 Rock.
I'm afraid I don't know 30 Rock.
Well, I would humbly suggest it's worth some of your valuable time. Yeah,
30 Rock is one of those things that everyone has told me I should watch, and I haven't watched it either.
No, I haven't either.
I'm currently fighting my way through Parks and Recreation.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
In fact, fighting, we have actually stopped, but we need to get back into it. We've stopped early in series 6. It starts to wane when Chris Pratt, obviously, is filming Guardians of the Galaxy in the UK, and has sort of forgotten how to play his character in Parks and Rec.
That's a shame.
My wife went off Chris Pratt when he lost the weight.
Yes, me too. Well, it's yeah. As a character in Parks and Rec, it doesn't work. He's not playing the character.
I went off him when he married Arnold Schwarzenegger's daughter, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, who's gonna break this to poor Chris that he's lost?
Well, I found it an interesting study on watching him being like, you're not actually your character, which this sitcom character that you've been playing for years, and you can't play it because your head's somewhere else and your body's somewhere else.
I mean, I'm sure it's just a whirl of triathlons and ultramarathons for you, Susie. But obviously, like Tracy's famous derriere does put you under a certain amount of pressure.
Does it?
I was to say, if it wasn't a radio show.
Oh, crikey!
You were talking about Chris Pratt embodying the character.
Yes,
and that's Tracy's posterior does get a lot of attention.
It does, and her rather larger upper area.
Oh yeah,
is that a thing? I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Do you remember that, Keri, when they were talking about her?
I do. Yeah, but I've always envisaged Tracy with dark hair for some reason prior to seeing you, Susie. But
I know it's a shame, isn't it?
I imagine. For some reason, I imagine Jill Tyrrell from Nighty Night for Tracy.
Yes, I've not really thought about that. That fits. I mean, I am a keen netballer, so I have an insight into the sports person's mind, although I'm much more of the I don't care if we lose as long as I've had fun playing, which Tracy would just have short shrift with that. So I mean, I can play sport and enjoy it, but I'm definitely not as well endowed as Tracy.
Have you ever got your loud hailer out at a netball match?
I don't need one. I'm that loud. No, not yet, but maybe if I'm off injured one week, I'll take it along. It's quite a small court, you see, though, so it might be a bit obtrusive. Yeah, it's not quite the same as a cricket pitch.
You do talk about bosoms on your new podcast, don't you?
I do. I was going to say I'll start with the size of my face. And I think I did have a message from somebody saying, in fact, I've had 2 different messages. One from a friend saying, "It starts with tits. I'm in. You had me at tits," that kind of thing. And then other people, another message saying, "Oh dear, I wasn't sure it was going to be for me." When you started off talking about bits of ladies' bodies, that sounds horrible. But but then they realised it was only a very brief conversation.
Yes, it's a very gentle.
Yes, and it was completely off the cuff.
Well, if it works out for you, tip us the wink, and we can start introducing Lady Parts chat into our podcast.
Well, it sounded like a disembodied. Yes, it sounded like I chopped somebody up there when I said it.
Peter, you're talking as if one of the hosts of this show hasn't posted topless photos of himself to the social media account.
That's a good point.
Pardon? What have I got to do here?
It gets very hot in Porto.
Matthew is by day an upstanding educator, bringing up the fine young minds of northern Portugal, and then by night, this naturist roaming around his beautiful apartment with a guitar on his lap.
Thank goodness there's a guitar.
Yeah.
There were a whole bunch of euphemisms when Neil and Shula were gardening this
Euphemisms?
Week,
You spotted two meanings, Keri.
wow, yeah.
Oh, I'm going to get stuck right into your bush in a minute, Shula.
Yeah,
We're soaking wet.
it was most peculiar, wasn't it, that they were getting all giddy, and you could hear Neil's stresses fall away from him when in the presence of our Shula.
Yes. Yes, the godly Shula.
Yeah.
Susie, you should know something, Susie, right now, that Peter's worst nightmare is that Neil and Shula have an affair, and Keri's not too keen on Shula altogether.
I have threatened to quit the Archers and, by extension, the Cider Shed if Neil and Shula happens.
So why?
Well,
aside from the fact it's not very nice.
I have thought about it. So I'm going to just be sort of big. I have thought about this. Basically, the thing about Shula is that obviously she's a nice person, but just as a character in the show, she's just so horribly nice and saccharine, and you're normally what I would do is I would sort of like fall effortlessly into a kind of like a mudslide of invective and swear words, but you're kind of forcing me to try and be on my best behaviour, which is making me trip over myself. I just can't stand her. Let's just say that.
Oh goodness. Well, there has to be characters, there are characters you love and characters you hate. I mean, I think it'd be quite boring if you liked everybody.
But imagine poor
I'm not gonna allow you to quit the Archers for that.
Yeah,
imagine poor Susan. Goodness me.
I know.
Oh, I love Susan.
Exactly.
I absolutely
she is
adore
fantastic.
Susan.
She is fantastic. Yeah, I mean that would be the reason I would be very disappointed it would happen, because my sister would be Tracy's sister. I know I'm you're going to be worried about me, my mental health after, aren't you? Does Susie actually think she's Tracy Hall? Yes, I do. Yeah, I think it's the I thought the scene with them laughing after the getting soaked was absolutely lovely. I thought well, first of all, as an actor appreciating acting, I thought it was beautifully played, and actually really nice to hear Shula being really relaxed.
Yes, and
Neil, I don't think she relaxes.
And Neil laughing too.
Yes,
it was real novelty, especially at the moment, because there are lots of fractious things going on for him and Susan. They're really struggling, aren't they, to do their bit. And then to hear him,
small baby's exhausting, isn't it?
Of course, even in your prime, it's hard work.
Yeah.
So,
and it is a good point you make about the acting, Susie. Like, I'm sorry to interrupt, Keri, but like one of the things that we have said in the past many times is our dislike of a character is almost a compliment to the actor sometimes.
Absolutely, yeah. I'd agree with that. And in in everything, not just the Archers, but yeah. And they're. Yeah, I thought it was really lovely, and it was just beautifully offset by absolutely awkward as anything. Alistair standing in the corner going, what the...
He wasn't laughing so much, was he?
Not really.
It was great. Did you forget he was there? I kind of kept forgetting he was there.
Yes.
And then going, oh God, Alistair's there. This is awkward.
Yeah.
And then going, oh, it's really funny. Oh no, Alistair's there. This is...
That was played brilliantly, wasn't it? The sort of deadpan, actually, no, Shula. Yes. There was a special look in your eye.
When was the time? Was there when Alistair came out of Kirsty's bathroom?
Yes.
With Gavin, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, and Gavin was there going, what's going on?
Yeah, he went to take a shower there, didn't he, for some reason? Yeah. That's
right. This is what led to the laptop. This was when he didn't have electricity or hot water or something, wasn't it? And he had to go. And then, that was the whole with Gavin putting Philip's laptop in the wardrobe, which everyone got obsessed
and it
about.
was when Gavin and Kirsty weren't getting on.
Yeah.
And he was being really horrible to get. Yes, yeah. Yeah, but it kind of reminded me of that was like Alistair.
Yes.
He's always there when there's an awkward shower situation.
Bless him.
Yeah. Yes, but I also liked the conversation he had with Shula, which I thought was quite gentle.
Yeah, she protested a little too much.
Absolutely, that's the phrase that came to my mind at the end of the episode.
Yeah, exactly. Also, with Neil, there were a couple of hints this week that he's not remembering things, and I'm really hoping that this isn't some early sign of some, like
upset me.
early onset something or other.
Or do you think it's just stress?
It could be stress, yeah. I'm hoping it is stress. Really, really hoping.
I said to Keri earlier on, it's a blessing for him if he can forget about his affair with Shula through the dementia.
She could dress in her.
She
hasn't got one yet.
The dog collar.
Yeah, she hasn't got one yet.
No, she hasn't. I don't think.
Yeah, but you can find them online.
She's probably has. I bet she has got one. I bet she's been practicing. I mean, not to have an affair with Neil. I mean, doing a couple of sermons in front of the mirror.
The thing with Shula and this affair with Neil is it is the kind of like the final expression of all of Jim's doubting of her credentials as a vicar way back when, to going backwards and forwards with Alan, her moments of doubt, and then here it is, the chance to sort of be morally upstanding. I mean, it felt today like it felt like almost 100% confirmation it's incoming and happening. Obviously, Susie, you don't have to confirm or deny, but that's how it felt as a listener.
If I could,
yeah,
I have no idea.
So you don't see you only have your narrow aperture onto the show. Then you only have your Tracy aperture.
Yeah,
right,
and not even that.
Okay,
I mean, because you have to kind of, well, you just have to wait for the scripts. And I think if you're in so for example, Holly and Wilf, who play Alice and Chris, I'm sure they would have, had some warning that all that was going to happen. And I'm sure so lots of research was taking place and stuff. But with everything else, it is very much you just sort of wait and see. And once you're into something, you kind of have an idea potentially of where it's going. But yeah, in terms of Neil and Shula, absolutely not a Scooby. But I felt like, oh goodness, but then she just had a conversation with Alistair about it, and I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he's kind of, maybe it would have done if he hadn't.
Hadn't been there, yeah.
Or not even, or it would have done eventually.
Alistair's cock blocked Neil.
Maybe.
I thought it was more that he's planted the seed now. I think that was more what it was, but that was just my read.
Think
we're back to gardening euphemisms.
The other way round, right? Yeah. Okay.
So it's a bit like Terminator, he goes back, but he's actually the one that causes it.
Gosh.
So Alistair is Michael Bean. Shula is James Cameron's wife. Who's Arnie? who's Arnie in this?
Well, who knows?
Is it Neil?
Neil has a kind of a resolute indestructibility.
Yeah.
I'll be back.
He'd be very nice.
Yeah, very nice Terminator.
And then throw his shoes.
This is the thing about Neil, though. He's so nice, isn't he? He has been such a moral compass and a beautiful, beautiful character recently that if he goes down the Shula route, it's gonna be terrible.
I don't think he would do that to Susan. No. I really don't. I think it'll be I think it'll be, the sort of it could have happened. Maybe there'll be a nearly. I just don't think he would do that to Susan. He loves her too much.
Yes.
Do you think Alistair will mention it to Jim?
Oh, and then Jim will mention it to Jazza. And then Jazza will mention it to Tracy. And then she'll get her cricket bat and go around to Shula's.
Well, because Alistair was saying, if the gossip gets around or gets out, and it was almost implying he might start it.
Well, I did think that. Yeah. I thought Shula was going to say, well, if it does start, where's it?
Yeah, we'll know where it's come from. Yeah,
You do sometimes see these stories where there's been an infidelity, and the scorned lover takes to a car, drives around the neighborhood with a loud hailer, shouting what's happened outside the house. So maybe that
Yeah.
could be where Tracy pops up with all that.
Maybe that'll be the next block of scripts. Alistair asked to borrow Tracy's loudhailer. She offers to go with him. Yeah.
There is, I mean, that is a possibility, isn't it? That actually Alistair, who thought he was so secure and over his breakup with Shula, it might go in the other direction, and this, is reacting to what you guys were saying. Yeah, this actually becomes a catalyst for Alistair having a little bit of a breakdown, because Shula's been front and center for a while now, and I do feel like they've gone over her doubts about priesthood quite a lot. Like, how much more gas is in the tank for that one?
I expect it's quite realistic, though. Crikey.
Yeah, that's one of the problems I have with the current the 4 days a week at the moment, is that normally when you have the 5 days or 6 days, what is it? Yeah, 6 when you got the Sunday, you've got room in the week for a silly episode where you have nothing but Jim and Jim being in the bird hide, arguing with Robert or something.
Yeah.
Whereas at the moment, because you've got the 4 a week, there's nowhere to hide from these big plot lines.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of my visceral reaction to this Shula and Neil thing. It's like, oh God, it's going to be all over us.
Excuse me, what about Eddie's limo this week?
That's a good point.
That
there was
was
some
a silly,
nonsense.
Yeah, that was a silly, funny bit, wasn't it, this week? Which I rather liked. It's so preposterous that he has a limousine.
I just don't know how he gets down the country lanes.
No,
that's a very good point.
I love that. I love the idea of him kind of getting stuck in a that Austin Powers.
Stuck in the hallway.
It's a random reference. Very long corridor, tiny car. In Austin Powers, and it's like a 506 point turn. It's a very, very funny scene.
We'll post that GIF on Sunday.
It makes me I mean, I'm laughing now, and it's just in my head. They keep cutting back to it, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yes.
But that's Eddie kind of jackknifed on a sharp corner bend.
With Linda waving at Evangeline Lowminster.
Oh, brilliant! I love that. She can just the ability to just paint that picture. She just told the story, oh gosh, I was there.
Yeah.
Cheering her on.
That wicked streak in her is great, isn't it? How it suddenly occurred to her, I know where I want to go. Darrington. Yes, straight away. She knew what she wanted to do.
She was already on the way there. She was reciting that poem, wasn't she, about her winged chariot? And then next thing she knew, I remember having to do that in English Lit, that poem. So...
Did you get in a limo straight after?
I did not, unfortunately. We were saying last week.
English much more fun.
Yes, we were saying last week about the exclusivity of a limo. Now it's not really such a big thing because when I was a kid, if you saw a limo, you thought it was someone famous, whereas now you just think it's like a graduation or a hen party.
I know,
but I like the way that. I thought, first of all, they were just going to say, "Oh, well, Tracy and Clary like it," because we've talked before about how there's this. It's like class snobbery in the Archers about taste and stuff like this. But Jill and Peggy were equally taken with it, weren't they?
Oh, yeah. Well, it sounds very nice inside. Yes, this was a bit of... And I suppose, actually, after not going anywhere for a very long time, going somewhere in a bit of a kind of...
Yeah, it's a real
bit
treat.
Of space. No one else in there. Probably don't have to wear a mask. You're that far away from the driver.
Yeah, Rex is not happy.
Thinking about it, Rex's cab can just, forget that. Yeah. I'd rather have a limo. Stretch out in the back.
Surely Rex just needs to write some stinging reviews on social media like he did with David's Barn.
That was a shocker.
Yes.
I was absolutely appalled by that. I was on David's behalf, incandescent.
Yeah, and he actually climbed down from his incandescence rather swiftly for David.
He did. I thought he was incredibly gracious, considering what he'd done. Yeah, I was very cross with Rex. I was shocked.
Yeah, Rex has been Rex. I'm quite curious what they're going to do with him. Like Hannah. I had high hopes that she was going to be Jazz's, love interest, because we think we're all desperate for Jazza to pair up. So thank you for that, Susie.
Good. That's fine.
But then Hannah obviously became a baddie quite quickly. But Rex has been going all over the place. He's scheming with Vince. He's developed a backbone recently. He's going toe to toe with Eddie. It's quite Anyway, I'm quite curious.
I don't know. I think he is confused, isn't he, as a person? He's sort of never. I think he's just discovering what he kind of wants to do, and his footing has been unsure in the world. So maybe that's kind of a concrete display of that. This kind of being a bit all over the shop, and I suppose his relationship with his father is probably a massive part of that.
And Toby, he's always had to look after Toby, and now Toby's nowhere to be seen for quite a long time.
Yeah, he mentioned that to Phoebe about his father, didn't he, with the whole Roy thing? He said, I wish my dad would take as much interest in what I did as your dad does. His everyone's mentioning on social media how quickly his pulled pork got on the menu at the Orangery. Like, where one theory was that David was throwing them off the roof.
What, the pigs?
Yes.
What, hundreds of dead pigs to kind of do something with?
To speed up the process. But yeah.
As a former professional chef, Matthew, is there any scientific value to that, throwing pig carcasses off roofs to tenderize the meat?
No, don't think so.
Would it say that on the menu? Yes.
I mean, don't people pay like megabucks for Wagyu beef, which is this beef that basically sits in a cow that sits in a hammock for 4 years listening to whale music? And
God, I'd love that.
So they're not stressed at all.
Could I have a go?
And apparently that makes the meat is just completely tender and soft because there's no stress in the animal's body.
No muscle.
So throwing a pig off Lower Loxley Roof is probably the polar opposite of that.
I mean, yeah, that's a good thing for the fates, isn't it? You could pay to fling some pigs off.
Throw a pig off a roof.
Forget whack-a-mole. Pig flinging is the new thing.
Are you a fan of Vince Casey as a character?
Yeah, I am.
Good.
I think he's a character that has the ability to be very funny, but also you wouldn't want to get on the wrong side. And I've loved the kind of development of his character, and I love hearing the real Brummie accent on Radio 4.
That was a question, actually, Susie. Where are you? I got a question on the email about where are you from?
Me personally,
yeah.
Well, I was born in Aberdeen and brought up in Birmingham.
Right. Okay. So there was lots of curiosity about your accent and Tracy's accent.
Well, they're not similar. And I suppose, I went to university in Newcastle and I went to drama school in Cardiff. So I've kind of, gone a bit all over the place as Susie.
So do you wonder when you go back to these various places, do you tend to sort of like a chameleon sort of segue into them?
I think with Birmingham there is a bit of an element of a bit of a Brummie accent creeping in with my family and friends and things. And if I meet a Brummie in London and we end up going, oh, you're from Birmingham, great. But yes, I don't think I ever had a Geordie accent. But my family are Scottish, so I end up doing a lot of Scottish audiobooks. Actually, that's my kind of and Scouse for some reason. Yeah, well, Tracy's, I would say, Borsetshire, and I actually think, because I suppose in terms of vocally, her and Susan don't sound very similar, but then I think when I hear Chris, I'm like, well, yeah, there's I can hear the similarity there, and the threads, because I suppose there isn't an accent that's exactly the same for everybody.
No,
but then I think that's partly how it is really with real people, and you kind of have elements of who you're friends with and where you hung out and that kind of thing.
I'm from Bristol and I get roundly mocked by Keri and Peter for my West Country accent.
You've got a mild Bristol accent, haven't you?
Yeah, a lot of my friends who've been listening to this podcast have said, God, you can really hear it when you say the Archers.
You can.
Lovely.
But there's this, even in Bristol, there's just such a wide variety of accents in the same city. And when I used to live there, I mean, I haven't lived in the UK for 20 years now, but I used to be able to tell, like, all right, he's from North Bristol, they're from South Bristol. But that thing with, like, you talked about, like, Ben, Rory, and Josh. A lot of that, they're the trio that people had trouble telling the difference between sometimes, aren't they?
I can tell them apart.
I can
very
now
easily.
as well. I can now as well.
Yeah.
But I think it is that kind of that spreading of the estuary English, isn't it? That kind of waters everything down a bit. So I think people sometimes they like a good accent in the Archers. So you're definitely flying the flag for that.
Yes.
Well, it does help to it helps to kind of put your flag in the ground. But I think when a character hasn't got a defining accent, I suppose, or vocal, because there's some. For example, Eddie couldn't. If he didn't have an accent, he would still be incredibly distinctive, because his vocal quality is so interesting. I just love listening to him. He's got something about his voice that I've never heard in anyone else, and it's almost, it's like the resonance in his voice is so incredible. It's almost metallic, the sound that he makes. That sounds weird. I'm not describing it very well because that doesn't sound very complimentary, but I find his voice absolutely amazing, and that's just that's Trevor's incredibly resonant voice and this wonderful quality. But yeah, I think when a new character comes in, and especially because those are three young men, so there's that their tone is going to be quite similar, I suppose, because they haven't smoked 5 million cigarettes and been ravaged by age. But now, I mean, I can tell them, if I'm listening, I know who it is. Absolutely.
I like the idea of, like, Ben going off to be a nurse in Cornwall for a while and coming back after 5 years, like, all right, my lover.
Yeah, that happens, doesn't it? I went to Australia for a year when I was, after university, and I remember ringing home and everyone was going, "Oh, you sound so Australian."
Yeah,
No,
I was out there for
Well,
a good
I
few
probably did.
years. Visited my mum's family, all live out in West Australia.
Oh,
Came back
right.
to England, everyone was like, why are you talking Australian? And then, why are you calling a documentary a doco all of a sudden? And then, and then I moved to Ireland, and I was there for like a decade, but sometimes I'd be calling my family in Australia and they'd be like, you sound Irish. But the Irish people would be telling me, you sound Australian.
Yes. But, hang on a second. But how have you managed to live in all these places for so long? you kind of got the elixir of youth or something. You don't look old enough.
No, we'll come to some of the things you touched in your podcast. I'll be 47 next month.
Okay, so I suppose I'm thinking, how was it 20 years since I was in Australia? More than.
Yeah, I was there at the beginning of the millennium, so I was there for a few years, and then went from there to Ireland, and then Ireland. Oh my God, where next? Brazil.
He's
and then
basically
Brazil
on the run,
Portugal.
Susie. We haven't worked out what for yet.
Yes, it's Interpol after you.
We've promised there'll be a Q&A with Keri and a Q&A with me at some point. And I thought someone might ask that question, but there isn't anything that... So you preempted them there, Susie, so thank you. I got it out of the way.
Well, no, I'm fascinated. I want to know more.
We're actually very close to the Keri Q&A. So, Susie, hopefully you being on here will be the thing that tips us into finally, I mean, Keri's such a shy and retiring person. It'll be, wonderful to sort of try and tease her out of her shell and get her to spill the beans.
Oh dear, yes, we've set this challenge, Susie. If we hit a certain number of not subscribers, what are they called? People who listen to downloads. That's it, the podcast.
Yeah.
That I will welcome any questions, and I have said anything. I'll just chuck it at me. I will answer.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I've said I won't answer everything.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, because you've been an international assassin touring the world, mercilessly slaughtering people by the dozen. So,
Yeah, it's understandable.
But we had a question sent in from Owen Kiffin, one of our listeners, for you, Susie. He asks, what do you think the similarities and differences are between you and Tracy?
Good question. Similarities. We look very similar. We're about the same height. I think we both like people very much, and we like communicating with people quite loudly at times. We both like having fun, and seeing the lighter side of things. I think, although I'm probably far more prone to going, oh god, everything's dreadful, whereas in the off moments where as Tracy kind of manages to perk herself back up,
just rolls her sleeves up and gets on with it.
I know, and that's one of the things I'd like to have a bit more of. Yeah, she's quite practical, isn't she?
Yeah, very resilient.
Yeah, and I think she's had to be, and I think there is something about her being a single mum, that's in that situation, the buck stops with her, so she's just got to do it. Whereas I can just go, to my husband, can you please get the washing in? I can't be bothered.
So the Maldives or the 6 and the 2-year-old, who would win in that? Obviously Tracy made the decision to pick her kids, but
oh gosh, I couldn't leave them.
Can you imagine if you said no? It's definitely the Maldives.
Social services, bring.
I would leave them behind.
I did assume that Susie would go along, would say the right thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, what a scoop.
Well, I because I'm a jobbing actor, and I'd love to tour, the Outer Hebrides. I'd love to do a play in, I don't know, anywhere, Manchester or wherever, just not even very far. But actually, the reality of that is it's quite difficult, because I don't really want to leave my kids for longer than 4 days. I'd miss them. So it's quite tricky, because you're kind of a bit. I've completely gone off the question that you asked me, but I'm just the psychology of being an actor. You kind of desperately want to work, and at the same time, it's actually, because when you do a play or something, it's so all encompassing, and you're so consumed by it. It's like being in a bubble. It's quite difficult to do when you've got little children.
Does that psychology, do you feel, even, because I think that a gig in the Archers is as close to a kind of solid gig as you get in the acting game, right? It just, even with that, is there still that kind of almost sort of learnt paranoia about sort of wanting to accept things, or wanting to sort of keep your diary full?
I don't know if I don't feel that so much, because I am looking after, my nearly 3-year-old, actually 3 next week. I think it's different for me at the moment. But previously it's that, I can't possibly go on holiday, because that'll be when,
right,
the bill in times gone by wants to book me. It's that silly, you can't let yourself relax just in case someone books. And it has happened to me. I've lost a job because I had booked a holiday and I wasn't going to not go on the holiday. I do a lot of voice work, and that's slightly easier to manage, because it's often a day here or there, or a couple of days if you're recording an audiobook or something. But it's still tricky to logistically with the kids, because they're not, because my youngest one isn't in full-time childcare, so there is a lot of, all right, can the grandparents pick him up here, and then
lots of spinning plates and juggling. And
although I have to say, easier now that husband works from home all the time. So I think some good things have come out of the reworking of the working day, the working life.
Is it your daughter that does the continuity on Limited Time Only?
It is, yes.
Yeah. I like the because we just bleep out all the F bombs on here, but I like the way that you dealt with it in the first episode.
Thank you. Yes, there was a little warning from Beatrice.
There was zero shock in her voice about the concept of swearing, or the idea that swearing might be something to need to be danced around.
What, in my daughter's voice?
Yeah, it didn't sound like it would have taken too long to explain what the meaning of the bit was.
Yes. She's never heard a swear word.
I'm sure, yes.
Never at all. Not even this evening. Several times. Yes, we won't. Let's not go there.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's probably where Tracy and I are quite similar. I expect Tracy drops a good F-bomb.
I'm amazed that my little boy's slightly younger than your daughter, but I'm absolutely amazed that he's never sworn. I just can't believe that it hasn't happened. He's 2 and a bit, and he's got every other word.
Yeah, well, the littlest one, my little boy. So he's 3 next week, and he just said the other day, my daughter was asking him about, what color is this? And blue. What color is this? Red. What color is that? That's green. What?
Why do you think she settled on green to put the F-bomb in front of, Susie?
I have honestly no idea. It was quite brilliant.
Because something happened with the neighbour's kid when I was about 14. I used to torment my neighbours playing my electric guitar. And one time I was downstairs in the back garden on the patio, and their 2-year-old kid next door looked over the fence. And he was like, "Matthew, is that your guitar?" And I went, "Yeah." He went, "Is that your guitar?" And I was like, "Oh, his parents don't like me."
Oh yeah. Oh God, that's brilliant.
I think you were right about the fact that Tracy is probably of the Ambridge population. She would probably have a good 1 or 2 per sentence.
Yeah,
I think in real life.
I think yeah. I mean, in similarities, I do think I kind of would get, because obviously my kids aren't teenage, and I'm sort of I haven't yet had to handle a teenager who doesn't want to get downstairs and get to school. Looking forward to that. But I kind of can empathise with her, I think.
Do you think Tracy would have been issuing expletives when she was on the back of Jazz's bike?
Oh my goodness, yes. He wouldn't be able to hear them, would he? Through the helmet.
Yeah, because when we had that episode, I was talking about it on the pod afterwards, and I said to Keri and Peter, "I assume you've both been pillion passengers on motorcycles before," and both of them roundly came back, "No."
I haven't.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was interested to ask.
I've been on. I've not been on one of those massive motorbikes. I'm that must be a big motorbike that he's got. I've been on a much smaller, not a moped.
Like one of those 50cc things, like the ones that kids get when they leave school.
Maybe something like that.
It's just a hedge trimmer with wheels on.
Yeah, we used to call them hair dryers. I mean, the school bully had one in our neighbourhood, but we never got bullied because we could hear him coming from a mile away.
That's great. Yeah, I've never been on the back of a huge, terrifying motorbike. No.
One of the questions we had was from Leslie Greaves. She said, "I think one of Tracy's good points is that she's brave. So can you ask Susie why she was such a wimp on the back of Jazz's bike?"
Oh.
Well,
it was wuss was the noun that was used, wasn't it?
But, I think it's very different. I think there's a different kind of bravery, isn't it? Really. I think there's emotional bravery and
fear of your life
actually die
ending. Yeah.
Exactly. So, it's also that idea, I don't want to read too much into it, but she's a mother as well, and she's on the back of a bike, and Jazz is driving crazily. She's got to think about you want to get off it at the end of the ride, don't you? So
that's 100% true. I think it's very telling how having children affects certain types of sportsmen, and how they can't compete at the highest level anymore because that fear of letting down their kids is there.
Oh, really?
I think
That's
so.
Interesting.
I'm so much more wimpy now I've got a kid.
Hey, speaking of sport, there was another question from Richard Beveridge for you, and he said Tracy has made her mark as the village's cricket captain with a unique approach to fitness and preparation, as well as relations between Ambridge and other clubs. Does Susie have a sport? And I know you mentioned netball earlier, but do you have a sport? And if so, what is it and why did you select it? He's asked.
Oh, well, yes. I mean, so I do 2 things at the moment. Well, no, 3. I do yoga every day, every morning. Sometimes for only 5 minutes, but sometimes a bit longer. I go swimming. There's actually a lake near us, near where I live, and you have to pay, but you go swimming in there with all the ducks, and that's quite fun.
Ooh.
And I went the other day and it was absolutely freezing and raining. I thought, why am I doing this? But I felt quite smug after that. And I play netball, and I have played netball for the last 5 years, and I hadn't played before that for about 20 years since school, and it was always something I thought, I'd love to play netball again. And then I thought, why am I not playing it then?
Let me guess, are you
Just
a
play it.
centre or wing attack? Some sort of
I'm
nippy
wing
little...
attack.
I knew it. Yes.
Keri, if you hadn't asked, I was going to. I know that for netball people, that would have been an absolutely essential question to nail down Susie's position.
Yeah. I was goal attack or goal shooter.
Oh, kudos. I respect for you. I think anyone who shoots is amazing.
Yeah, but no, you're the nippy one, aren't you?
Is there a personality type?
Yeah, definitely. You're quite nippy and not aggressive, but yes, aggressive. Yeah.
Like a little yappy dog.
Yes.
Well, I do play. I used to play centre at school. That was my position. But I'm too knackered for that. I played centre for one quarter a few weeks ago, and it was only about 10 minutes long. And I was like,
yeah, you're very busy as a centre, aren't you?
Fine. Oh my goodness. I did have a game as centre a month or so ago when our centre was off. But she's an Australian. She's a very short Australian, incredible stamina. And the height she gets to when she jumps, it's good. It's fun. It's a league, and we play a season, and we'll play each team twice, and then yeah, I think it's great fun. I think the team sports just, yeah. I'd much rather do that than go for a massive long run on my own. I'd be absolutely bored out of my mind. But I like being on court for 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and not thinking about anything else except where's that ball going. I love it. I think that's probably what Tracy gets out of cricket as well. I think that's probably what everyone gets out of sport, isn't it? Partly. Yeah. It's that focus on something entirely not to do with the rest of your life, and that's what you're concentrating on, and nothing else matters at that point.
It's also nice to be good at something. I mean, it's like being good at sport.
I didn't say I was any good.
But okay, so the moments where you feel you're on your game. It's such an uncomplicated sense of achievement. It doesn't have any, it's not, you don't have to reference it to anything. It's just bam, that 30 seconds was amazing.
Yes, it's sublime, actually, isn't it? And it is funny because sometimes in a game it happens where I've done it. I've thrown to the GS possibly in the circle, and absolutely beautiful over the top of the two defenders and into her arms, and then I go, good God. How did that happen? How did I do that? But you don't. I suppose that's where stage fright and things like that happen, aren't they? When you start thinking about it before you're doing it. How am I going to do that? But actually, think about it afterwards is fine. But yeah, it's that bam, 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 bam.
Very fast paced netball.
Yes, so fun.
Yeah, it's good.
Well, oh gosh, I mean the professional teams. Amazing, absolutely amazing, and so fit.
Have you had a go at handball?
No. Okay. What is that? Is that when it's not volleyball?
It's the German Dutch thing.
It's like a passing game, but it's like football, but with the hands, and there's still a goalie you have to score past.
If the sound's off, it would look like 10 huge sort of Nordic guys doing impersonations of jumping starfish. They're kind of leaping around.
It sounds great.
Yeah,
no, I haven't tried that.
My first week in Brazil, I agreed to go in goal because this female league were a girl down. So I went in the goal, and it was basically like being in the stocks and having things pelted at you for 90 minutes. It's
I'm not sure.
Absolutely terrifying to be a goalkeeper in handball.
My goodness, yeah.
It's in the Olympics now, though, isn't it? It's actually in the Olympics.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, anyone who's a goalie. I mean, I was actually being goalie for my 6-year-old kicking a ball at me the other day, and I was terrified.
Have you watched any of the Euros? Do you like football in your household or not?
I have to say I haven't.
Okay.
And I do like football, and I might watch
England Germany Tuesday. Yeah.
Is that Tuesday?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm actually going to be at my Dad's house that day. So I think I will watch. And in the past, I have watched internationals, but I just haven't got time at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm editing the podcast till about 12:30 every night.
It's a win-win for me, that game. It doesn't matter who wins, really. My dad was born in Germany, so I can just... my mum was born in Scotland. I was raised in England, so I can just enjoy the whole thing.
Yeah, I will watch that. I will watch that one.
I too. I know we talked about... I'm just going to squeeze one more out because someone
Excuse
asked me. Rob Williams, he said... you'll like this with your dual personality. He said, when you speak to Tracy/Susie, ask if she's had a postcard from Roman. Now, I mean, I know it's a bit, that's... Has she? We don't know. But I was thinking, building more on that, would she tell Jazza if she had? And do you think maybe there's been a Zoom call or two, or there's still a WhatsApp there? Or...
Oh, goodness. That's interesting, isn't it? I don't think they've Zoomed. Do you reckon he might have sent her a text or something?
Because it wasn't. They didn't part on terrible terms, did they?
They parted very, very, very well. But just that realised that they didn't actually love each other, I suppose.
There was a wonderful tweet at the time that someone tweeted out. That's not the first time the Scots have seen off the Romans, which I thought was brilliant.
Just the best name ever. Best character name ever. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm that sad I'd probably write myself a postcard from Roman and stick it on the wall.
Just to stir things up a bit with Jazza, probably.
Yeah, that's that's a very interesting question. Would she tell Jazza? I suppose it depends what it said.
I intensely disliked Roman before he was even a speaking character, just for straying anywhere near what I very much perceived to be Jazza's turf.
You really were there already with Jazza and Tracy.
Yes.
Wow.
I was very, very keen, very early that they should get together, and I find any hint of any sort of speed bumps in their road quite upsetting. I want them to be happy. I want them to move in together. I want them
a year long
Yeah.
speed bump, wasn't it?
It was.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I'm glad that you're happy about it.
No, well, thank you very much, Susie. Yeah.
I am too.
I liked the way that you delivered the news to your sister on the show, because she was just unloading with all these terrible faults of Jazza, and I think you just said, "I'm seeing him."
Yeah. It was great. She's like, "Oh, he's awful, isn't he? He's got more than one job." Yeah.
But
we're going out.
Susie, who was it you said earlier on that was the reaction to them was snobbery? It was to Tracy, wasn't it? Maybe to Tracy, some of Tracy's rougher edges.
On the desk of the hotel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I feel exactly the same way with Jazza. Jazza's, what I feel is self-evident goodness. It's always shocked me that people in the village and also listeners haven't got that as well. I feel that's why, for me, they're such a good couple, because they're different people, but fundamentally their values are kind of in very close.
Yeah, I think so. They understand each other. And they are both. I think they're both pretty honest, although Jazza does have a tendency to do slightly more off the radar things, doesn't he?
If Jazza and Tracy ever do sort of if not necessarily get married, I don't think that's necessarily their style, but Tracy owes Jim a huge debt of gratitude for knocking off so many, polishing him up and getting him ready for life, indoors.
Yeah, it's occurring to Jazza now, isn't it, that now is the time to settle down. There are loads of signs that that's what he wants to do, and he's trying to impress her with that. So
yeah,
he's getting there.
He seems to have, how old is Jazza, and is he 40?
He's 39 or something. Yeah, some late 30s.
He's late 30s. Yeah, I think he's, well, yeah.
Is Tracy my age? Is Tracy about 46?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's her birthday soon, actually.
Okay.
So we're all the same age, Peter, me, and Tracy. Okay.
That's good to know.
Yeah, I mean, Jim did a hatchet job on Jade just by serving up a salad, didn't he?
Oh dear, poor Jim. He was trying so hard.
He was. I know.
Quite upsetting.
I'm fiercely defensive of Jim. That was
he is absolutely glorious and gorgeous, and yes, yeah, it was wonderful.
And the guy who plays him, there's a bit of the Jean-Luc Picard about him. He's got a kind of
Oh yeah,
a hairless handsomeness. Handsome, yeah.
yes. Well, he does in real life, to be
Yeah,
honest.
exactly. Yeah, he's a
Yeah, yeah.
good-looking man, yeah.
Oh, I tell
Yeah.
you what I loved, and I went looking for it the other day, when you did your special, Tracy Horrobin's Guide to Ambridge.
It won't be on there anymore, will
Yeah, I
it?
couldn't find it.
No.
Where you sang the theme tune at the end yourself. I loved that. But I was trying to remember, did you pontificate that you could marry into Oliver's family and live as a lady of the manor? Or there was something at the end?
Oh, yeah, it was, she was laughing about people thinking that there was ever going to be anything between her and Oliver.
Right, okay.
But then she did quite like the idea of Lady Tracy Horrobin.
Yeah, that was great, that thing.
People
that was way before lockdown, wasn't it? I
People
really
still
liked that.
talk about that,
Yeah.
the hope that you and Oliver might still get together.
Well, you know, it's still in the back of my mind too. I adore him as well. I mean, yeah, as I said before, I just want to be in Grey Gables reception with Linda and Oliver.
So, Susie, you're on our podcast, but haven't you been doing one as well?
It's called Limited Time Only, and it's hosted by me and a friend I've had for 31 years, since we were not even born, Esther Stanford. And it's a mix of chat and comedy sketches and interviews with interesting people. So it's not kind of I don't say it's standard podcast, an interview. There's lots of stuff going on, and each week we have a theme kind of related to the idea of we've only have limited time on this planet, and oh my goodness, it's going fast. And everything in that episode is kind of related to the theme, however loosely. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. We say it's a pick me up in podcast form because it's quite light. It's meant to be fun and funny, and I hope it is. And it's available on all major podcast apps, and also through our website, which is limitedtimeonlypodcast.com. Yeah, and it's great, and it's been fun to do. I've loved doing it because it's been a real fantastic creative outlet.
It got me through a morning of tedious work the other day.
Good.
I flew through a bunch of rather mundane tasks. Thank you very much.
I think that's what it's good for. I think people have been cleaning a lot listening to it, which I think is great because you want something that's going to make the time pass quickly.
Guessing the ages of celebrities that features. I got so many of those wrong.
Well, yeah, Esther's a bit freaky there. She does know lots of people's birthdays.
Yeah,
it is an uncanny ability. Yeah, but each episode. So our second episode was released today, and that's all about. It's called Time for Mindless Scrolling, and it's all about social media, and how we feel about social media and kind of phones in general, really, and how we're kind of tied to it. And it's dreadful, but yet also brilliant. And all about that. And there's a sketch which is a documentary featuring someone who's addicted to social media and their social media addiction counsellor, and and over the course of the sketch they kind of switch places, which is quite nice. A convergence and then away, and then and an interview with the social media guru.
I like that that touching on the actual fear that if somebody calls you on your phone, you're like, I'm not answering that. Who is calling me on this device? Because I had to write a transcript.
It's a weird thing.
I wrote a transcript for my students, and just so they could do a reading exercise, and it was two kids talking about planning to go to the cinema. And when I was marking the thing, one of the kids written at the bottom, kids don't talk on phones.
Brutal.
Wow.
Yeah, boomer.
Yeah, I know.
Wow. Gosh, that's yeah. But I do feel like it's a shock when my phone rings. And I generally don't answer it.
Keri, for a while explained. Well, she gave me a very direct hint, which was, Peter, you're pretty much the only person I answer the phone to. And I think there was lines for me to read between, and I'd rather not have to answer the phone to you as well.
Well, it's just without what normally people say, there's a preemptive message going, can you talk? Or, shall we have a phone call?
Terrible.
Peter just like barges straight into your day with a phone call.
I'm one of those people.
Yeah. Which,
Well, I kind of, last week I decided, because I don't ring people either. I don't ring people. I think I'll ring them another time, because I know it takes a while. If you're gonna ring someone you haven't spoken to for ages, you need a good half an hour at least.
Yeah, it's really intrusive, isn't it?
I haven't got time
to suddenly presume someone's going to be available. That's a weird thing nowadays. Yeah,
Keri,
yes.
I am a gift to the universe. Why would I deprive my friends and family of the opportunity to hear me talking about myself?
And that's why I answer.
Yeah, thank you. Good point. Yeah.
Oh.
More terrifying than that, the unannounced and not arranged video call.
Oh God, no. That's a no-no.
Who does that?
I know some people that do it.
Grandparents.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
No
need for that.
Oh, by the way, if my parents are listening, that's fine. You guys, you've seen it all. But anyone else, off.
Yeah, what I've started doing is if I get a message from somebody and I think, I'd love to speak to them, I just ring them now. I've tried to start ringing people, because I never will speak to anybody ever again if I don't.
Yeah, that's true.
So I rang my dad last week for the first time in ages. So I thought, why am I messaging? We're messaging to and fro about something that we could speak about, and then it'd be just nice to have a chat.
So basically, what we're getting to is the problem is not the technology; it's the etiquette that surrounds it. A text message is basically an invitation to then get in touch in any way that's most appropriate.
Yeah.
I'm now going to do buckle in for untidy segue. Talking of getting in touch, see, right?
Oh, nice.
The magic happening live. Keri, what's our Twitter handle?
Our Twitter handle is @thecidershed_pod.
Keri has been doing sterling work reaching out to everyone, and we've been having a lot of fun there. Matthew has taken the bold step of opening up an Instagram page for us. Where's that, Matthew?
I saw.
Oh,
yeah. I was. It's something I've been meaning to do for a while, and then listened to Susie's podcast, Susie and Esther's podcast this morning. I was like, yeah, I need to get on that. I need to do something. It was your guru that kind of pushed me to do it.
Oh.
So I got round to doing
that's
that.
Great.
So we're the Cider Shed Pod on Instagram, and I also look after the Facebook, which is the Cider Shed Podcast.
Lovely. And seeing as we've gifted you probably over an hour of Susie Riddell, maybe you could go to iTunes and give us a lovely review, the full 5 stars, some kind of glowing write-up. That'd be magnificent. Much appreciated. Lots of forwards, please, on the Twitters as well. Always appreciated. And Susie, just a huge thank you for coming and chatting to us. It's been a real pleasure.
Yes.
Well, it's been a delight. Thank you very much. It's been very relaxed. Lovely cider. And it would be, one day we will be able to go into a shed and have a cider.
Yes.
That's the dream.
Lovely.
The dream.